We're going to do a little something different today. We're going to start off with the comment of the day. The comment of the day comes from Killer Breeze. The OCF is bringing the heat on this one. I love the idea of Power 4 schools not even recruiting these high school seniors. Make them prove it for at least 1 year before they get the privilege of playing in a place like the Crimson Nations. I don't know how realistic it is, but I think it would be a home run if we get all the Power 4 schools to cooperate. Woo! And that was the comment of the day from Killer Breeze. And what that's in reference to is the podcast I just done on Oklahoma's former tight end, Davin Mitchell, leaving, and how he's a good case study of why these big-time schools and these Power 4 conferences shouldn't even recruit these kids out of high school. They should make them go play at a G5 school or even an FCS school and not give them the time of day until they prove themselves and they can work their way up. Now, today we're going to talk about the possible slow death of the ACC and how we might be able to expedite this thing as to, try to negate some of the suffering that some of these ACC fans are enduring. Let's talk about it. It's another episode of the Outlaw of College Football. And before we get to the topic of the day, here they come once again, riding on in. It's the Outlaw Posse now in effect. And today's four horsemen shout-outs go to Enough is Enough, Big Stack Kelly, Billy Burks, and Texas Torpedo 01 are mounted up, saddled up, and ready to go, and they're going to help us with today's college football invasion. And if you want to get your random four horsemen shout-out like them, as well as get a badge and get deputized, and possibly be the comment of the day, which usually comes later in the show, but today it comes at the beginning of the show. It's not but $2.99 a month. That's just 75 cents a week. That's just a half a bottle of water for the Outlaw. Now, getting right to it here, looks like the ACC's down a slow death, folks. It's like one of those movies that you're watching and you sort of know how it's going to end. It's one of those pretty obvious plots. Or maybe like watching a team that is already dead in the water in the second or third quarter, and it's just a slow process of bleeding out. Well, that's the ACC. They're bleeding out like a athlete in his twilight that's about to retire, but he's fighting, or that business in your town, in your local city that's been around for so long. And nostalgically speaking, you don't want to see it go away, but the big name brands are there. The big companies are selling their product a lot better than your local business that is just slowly dying a slow death, just like the ACC. And the only thing I can really suggest to the ACC is to just go ahead and let it go, man. It looks just like the Pac-12 all over again, except it looks like it's going to be a slower process, just a suffering of sorts. Teams like Florida State, Clemson, Miami, Virginia Tech, Virginia, North Carolina, Pittsburgh, those are big name schools, and some degree NC State, that will probably find a home in one of these big time conferences. The Power 2 that people like to refer to. I don't like referring to that because I'm a nostalgic person myself, and I don't want to see college football just be two conferences and just be 48 or 50 teams like a lot of people have been talking about. But the rumor has it, and this time of the year, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get conference realignment talk. You think it's gone away, but it hasn't. And it's not ever going to go away until it gets down to probably, much to my chagrin and many others, it gets down to just two conferences being the Big Ten and the SEC. Although I think the Big 12 does have a window and a tunnel that they could approach and go through in order to survive and be that third viable conference. That'll be another topic for another day. But the ACC has this little deal in place where, they have this buyout, these levels of buyouts where, if you try to leave this year, it's X amount of dollars, way up there, like $200 million. And then it goes down gradually from that to 170 million to 150 to 125 on down to 100 million. And that's like 4 or 5 years from now. To me, that's just a slow dying process. These conference members, they all need to get together and say, look, this is going to happen. So why prolong the suffering? Let's go ahead and everybody get their deals in place. Let's everybody get a deal with one of these 3 surviving conferences, and let's go forward and see how it goes from there. It may not stop the bleeding out process for the entire college football world. The Big 12 may be the next target of the Big 10 and the SEC, but I'm not so sure about that. I think the Big 12 can survive. A lot of people don't think they can. A lot of people, I'm an SEC guy, but a lot of my SEC buddies be like, man, you're crazy. It's going to just be those 2 one day. I just hope not. But the rumor has it, the sources out there are saying, and I listen to my boy Numbskull News, check his channel out. I sort of got the epiphany from him on this. A lot of sources are out there saying that now the Big Ten has really focused in on just 2 teams, that being Notre Dame, Captain Obvious choice for them. They've had a hard on for Notre Dame ever since they expanded with Penn State back in the 1990s. And you know the story, I've told it ad nauseum. Actually, Notre Dame did one in the Big Ten at one time. They tried in the 1930s and the 1960s, the Big Ten in Michigan, to a microcosm, made it to where Notre Dame couldn't get in. And now Notre Dame's sort of getting them back a little bit. They've turned them down the last 2 times. But the way things are progressing now, and the way Notre Dame went out and suspiciously got their AAU accreditation, even though they're not really a research institution, leads me to believe that they're going the way of playing in the Big Ten. And the other team, it might surprise you a little bit. A lot of people are saying Florida State or Clemson are the 2 teams that the SEC and the Big Ten are fighting over. That's just not the case, in my opinion. The rumor has it that it's going to be Miami. It's going to be Notre Dame and Miami. That'll get the Big Ten to a good, sound, solid number of 20. They got their 18 right now. The SEC's got 16. What the SEC might do, though, to block that is they may just go down and say, look, we don't really want to add, because Greg Sankey has been adamant saying that they don't really need to add anymore. But the Big Ten may force their hand. If you want to keep the Big Ten out of the Florida market, which is pretty valuable, then the SEC may just come in and take Florida State and Miami just to spite. Clemson, a lot of people think Clemson will get in there because they got eyeballs around the nation. They're not a big market. The city of Clemson, South Carolina, is not a huge market. Neither is Tallahassee, Florida. It's bigger than Clemson, but it's not as big as Miami. So that's why I think that this rumor may have some legs. And I do think that the Big Ten is going to approach Notre Dame and Miami first. Could be wrong. Could be Florida State. Could be Clemson. Could be North Carolina or Virginia. A lot of people say at the Big Ten, they want to keep that little farce in place, so that the academic elitists out there don't wet their diapers and lose their noodle and become little puddings that they are, that they'll go after some schools with AAU accreditation, like North Carolina, Virginia, maybe Georgia Tech. Forgot about Georgia Tech. I don't know why I keep doing that. Georgia Tech's got a big market in Atlanta. The SEC's already had Georgia Tech back in the day. So I don't see the SEC pushing for that. Plus, Georgia would probably be like all about not getting them in the SEC. Georgia probably, if you want to invite them in, that's fine, but it ain't going to hurt our feelings if Georgia Tech goes to the Big Ten or the Big 12, the other conference that nobody's talking about, which I think in the end might be a mistake because they got some pretty valuable teams that are sneakily good, and I've always been preaching up BYU for the longest. They got a huge following. They got that Mormon religion that's worldwide, and of course, even religious people love college football. That's Notre Dame. They're a Catholic school. But getting off topic here, I think that the ACC should just go ahead and dissolve. and stop the bleeding out process. The fans of these teams don't deserve that. They deserve to just go ahead and know the future and not think that they're lesser than. You see, because right now, the way it is, sort of in a way, like comparing it to the WWE, you have the world title and then you have the Intercontinental belt, which is a secondary belt. And that's what it is right now to win those two conferences. To win the ACC or the Big 12 right now is perceived by most as a secondary conference to win. It might be unfair to say that, but that's the way people see it. So if I'm them, and they go ahead and they can get Notre Dame and Miami, if the SEC doesn't try to corner the market and get Florida State and Miami, that would be, I think, a good coup for the Big Ten. The SEC at that point, I think, would go out and add 4 teams to try to get to 20 as well because it's a good round number. So I think they would probably go out and get North Carolina like they've been wanting to. They'd probably pick up Florida State too. And then I think it would be down to, Clemson or Virginia Tech or Virginia, maybe even NC State. You have the equation of maybe the SEC can make a run at Notre Dame, just a poke in the eye for the Big Ten. The Big Ten wants to come down into the SEC's markets and take Miami. Well, hey, go after Notre Dame. Make them pick up someone different. They can get Miami and North Carolina. Miami and North Carolina would probably be an excellent fit for the Big Ten. So in the end, I think that's what's going to happen. I think the Big Ten will probably get Notre Dame and Miami. The SEC will then add Florida State and Clemson, who are the 2 obvious choices, and then maybe North Carolina and Virginia Tech or Virginia. Either one, I could see them adding. And that's all I got to say about that. If you don't mind, there's a little heart down here with a money dollar sign in the middle. If you want to make a one-time donation to the program, smash that heart, throw a few dollars in the coffers. KMCA to all the other teams. Oh, and like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. That's the Big 4 and all, absolutely free. Class is now officially dismissed.